Hi there. We're back with another episode of Daughters of Wisdom. I'm Melissa and I'm here with Nancy and Tammy today. And we are following back up with our study of the Proverbs 31 woman. And we're just going through and looking at her life of faithfulness and how we can emulate so many qualities that she had and that it can be attainable. Because, like we talked about in our last episode, Tammy, we looked at how it can be really intimidating to look at all of the things that she accomplished, but what was it about her that made it seem like it was actually something we could aim towards trying to be more like her?
I think the fact that we need to look at it not as a to-do list for the next few years, but as a lifetime list.
Yeah.
Something we're reaching forward for, that we're not trying to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nancy, what did you think about that? Looking at her seasons of life and the things that she had.
Well, and that we talked about how it's a journey down the lifetime of faithfulness,
Mm,
that we're traveling down the road ultimately to heaven.
mm,
And that's what all her characteristics are leading toward. And that's why we should be trying to emulate them.
yeah. Yeah. And it's the thing about the Proverbs 31 woman that looking at it in this idea of the Hebrew chiasm. Hopefully, there'll be an image on the screen for you, but just to have this layout of how her life it was completely centered. Who was it centered all around?
Her husband.
Centered all around her husband, and all of those things that she did, they were about her family. Yes, they were actions that she was doing these things, but when you look at her why, like we look at Bible studies sometimes and it's looking at the why do we have the Bible study? Well, why was she serving her family? There's always a why to the things that we do. And this we looked at the fact that if this were King Lemuel, you opened us up with that.
Mhm.
What did you say about Lemuel?
Well, it could be that it's Solomon, that it's referring to Solomon. And if that's the case, well, his mother was Bathsheba.
Yeah. And then I really liked what you had to say there.
That Ruth was Samuel's great great Samuel was Solomon's great great
One of those
grandmother.
something about that.
And the same wording is used to describe her. Boaz described her as the townspeople knowing her as a virtuous woman. Same wording as we find in Proverbs 31. So, it possibly could be that Solomon is the one this is directed toward.
And that's a neat thought going all the way back to Ruth because we know where she is in the lineage of Christ and how important she was and what kind of woman she was. So that's really I love the way that that Hebrew chiasm lays it out and really draws the attention on why she was the woman that she was. She had a goal,
Right.
and her I think her goal was probably to get her family to heaven.
Yeah.
And if we want to be Proverbs 31 women, then what's our goal?
To get our family and ourselves to heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. If we go to Proverbs 31 and we look at verse 10, Tammy, would you care to read that for us?
An excellent wife who can find, she is far more precious than jewel.
I like that. And in the King James Version, the word for her is virtuous. She is a choice woman. And again, looking back at Bathsheba, I think the wording's interesting. She's a choice woman. This is the kind of woman that Bathsheba, if it's Bathsheba, then she's the kind of woman that would choose this kind of wife for her son. And that's a beautiful picture because how are we always thinking about what we want for our children, or what's going to help them in their spiritual lives? Because that spouse is important aspect of their growth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, who you choose as a spouse, that's like the second most important decision you make
Absolutely.
in life, because that can literally make or break your Christianity.
Because
Yeah.
they inevitably they're going to try to lead you.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if we look at verses 11 and 12, we're going to look at this mother talking to her son about what kind of wife she wants for him. She wants her son to find a wife that is loyal And verses 11 and 12, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. So the instruction isn't for him, oh, you better find you a pretty wife. You want somebody that's going to, she's going to look good on your arm all the days of your life. Right? That's not what she's pointing in towards. What's her focus on?
Is her loyalty toward the husband, her trustworthiness, and her just her inner being, the way she treats him.
That's right. So if a man has a wife that he cannot trust, how strong is that marriage going to be?
Yeah.
It's
But that's is crucial for a good marriage.
foundational. Yeah. Uh, Now, her true beauty is what's a part of her character, and it has nothing to do with her outward appearance. And I mean, she strengtheneth her arms. I mean, think she probably was she probably had a hardworking physique. She was willing to put the work in. And this isn't to say that she didn't take care of herself and try to make herself look nice when she wasn't out dripping in sweat in the field, But she probably had balance there. Verse 12, well, verses 12 through 22 really illustrate the areas that he can trust her when we go through and look at those verses. Um, Particularly in her ability, he has trust in the fact that she can bring good to his life. She's not going to bring in drama. You ever known anybody like that who the husband was just so amazing, but it just drama always surrounded their family? Who was it that brought that drama in sometimes?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Yes. Thank you for saying it. Thank you for taking one for the team.
Yeah.
It's easy for us as women to get so caught up in the drama because of our emotions and our hormones. And if we don't put those in the right perspective, if we don't put those in the right place, we can let them overtake our lives.
Yeah.
And then our husbands are left dealing with the aftermath.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Somebody has to clean up, right?
Yes.
If he even can clean up the damage that's done. Verse 12 highlights her commitment. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. This wife, she has an opportunity to bless her husband in many ways. How are some ways that we can bless our husbands like she was blessing her husband?
Well, as she provided for the family, took care of the household, and, she even contributed to the monetary gain of the family. She did. Which when, a lot of times if we are blessed to be able to stay home with our kids when they're little, they take all our time. But as they grow, we have a little more time of our own. And if we are able to contribute in some way to the financial income of the family, that takes a lot off the husband.
It takes off some of that pressure. And then maybe the husband and wife are able to just spend a little bit more time together if he's not,
Constantly working and trying to bring in the bacon, as they say.
like working, and then getting home exhausted and not having time to invest in their relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One thing that comes to my mind when reading about this woman is submission.
Mm.
She in Ephesians 5:22, wives are told to submit to their husbands. Well, too often we see that as a demotion. I'm a lesser person because I've got to submit to this man. But when we read the Proverbs 31 woman, she absolutely does not reflect that. We look at the good she does for her husband, she most certainly would have been in submission to him, and what a blessing that would have been to him. And in fact, that elevates her because it's harder to be in submission to someone than to not be.
You've got to be willing to.
Yeah, it shows a measure of self-control, and we have to have self-control. It brings us to a more godly way of life and way of mind. And so, to be able to be submissive to our husbands as a reflection of our self-control.
Right. And that does make it easier for our husbands when we're in submission. That would naturally mean we're in agreement with each other. If we are submitting to his wishes, his, whatever, however you want to describe it, then we're both going in the same direction along the same path.
Mhm.
And so that just naturally would make life easier
It would.
for the husband.
I think if we're constantly fighting in our homes and not necessarily fighting, but if there's a contention there and just a bitterment about this submission idea, then how much work are you able to do for the Lord together when we're so caught up and focused on, well, I don't think I should have to do that, but he wants me to,
Right.
those things. But I know you had something to say, and I jumped in there. That's okay. No,
I'm waiting my turn. I think that lends to the trust that he has in her because if she is submissive, he knows he can trust her
Exactly.
and he doesn't have to worry. Well, is she doing this? Is she doing that? Is she doing what she needs to do today? Or am I going to have to go home and fix dinner and clean up and do my laundry and la, 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 la.
So many times the world sees the Bible and the instructions in the Bible is just that, just instructions, just things you have to do. But when you look at it in ways like that, it all fits together to make life better for everyone. The trust and the submission go hand in hand and it works together for a better marriage. Whereas other people would look at the submission, like you said, is, well, I don't want to have to do that. Or, the trust. Well, what does it matter if he trusts me or not? I want to do what I want to do. But, if we live by the Bible, it's like puzzle pieces all coming together.
absolutely. For every fact, it's like it pertains all things that pertain to life. God, like
Exactly. Yes.
we have instructions for everything. Okay, well, looks like we're, looking at this loyalty, really the foundation of it is trust. And we want to be trustworthy women. Now, that makes a worthy woman.
Right.
The young woman is loyal, but she also has strength and diligence. So, looking at verses 11 through 18, we look at this Proverbs 31 woman in her youth. And of course, she clearly has strength still. She has all of this energy. She's industrious, resourceful. This is an intentional woman. She knows how she's going to spend her day working. She knows what she's going to do. Maybe she's a planner, which really kind of slaps me around because I'm not a great planner. If you all haven't noticed yet, I'm not. It's not one of my strengths. But this woman's work, it directly benefits those that are closest to her. It contributes not only to her well being, it contributes to their well being. And if you're ever around people that are not able to just hold things together, it kind of feels like you're being pulled down by them. And how awful is it if we're the person in the household pulling things down, instead of helping to progress them and move them forward? Her work is a benefit. She approaches her responsibilities. She does it not begrudgingly, not with a hard heart or a bad attitude. She has delight in what she does. And when we look at that word in verse 13, she seeketh wool and flax. She works willingly with her hands. That word willingly, it means with pleasure, with desire. Have you ever seen a lady of the house doing things like the laundry or the dishes and she did it with a bad attitude? I'm not saying that you looked in a mirror and saw that happening or anything, or the reflection in the window from across the sink, but maybe I've done that a time or two.
Walked into the kitchen and said, I just cleaned this. How did it end up a mess again?
Yeah. You just like we live in a cycle of repeat. Sometimes it feels like
It does.
and yeah, or you see that the same dirty dishes are left in the sink and you think, why do I have to do them? And there is something to be said to get sharing responsibilities around the house and making sure the children have their own things to do. But overall, aside from instructing them and how to be, benefits to the household as well, are we a benefit to them in our attitudes and them being able to emulate this attitude of pleasure and delight and willingness to work and serve others? Because if we want to be pleasing to Jesus, we're going to have a servant's heart. I mean, that's the entire reason Jesus washed the apostles' feet was to break their hearts and to bring them together because they had been fighting over nonsense. And he gets them to the point where he's washing their feet and he's serving them. And sometimes we can unify our families and bring them together when we will just serve each other. We can we can work toward building those relationships and growing together. So we don't want to be those angry women overdoing the daily tasks. But
Or I think the worldly perspective is, that's menial work. It's beneath me. I shouldn't have to do all of this. It's lesser. It's woman's work.
right.
It's used in a derogatory
That
way.
is.
Yeah, but the Proverbs 31 woman gives us God's perspective.
Mhm.
It's a joy. It's a good and right and noble thing to do to take care of your home.
Yeah.
And, I think as we mature as women, as wives, as mothers, we have to take the mind of knowing that this is a good thing for me, this is a good thing for my family, and find joy. I'll be honest with you, there's times when it hasn't been a joy, but then I would try to find a way. Okay, I'm going to put music on while I'm cleaning my house and zone out. And I've got my music going. And wow, this is, what a beautiful house after I'm done, and it's all cleaned up.
Yeah.
And you take pleasure in that. Or maybe you put on a movie that you're used to watching or something, some way to bring joy to your life while you're doing these service
Mm,
projects.
right. Service projects start at home.
Sometimes they are a project.
Yeah, I can certainly feel that way. Yeah. Now, Nancy, what would you say about her attitude? Does this look like a selfless woman?
Absolutely. I was just sitting here thinking that, to do all these service projects that mothers, wives have to do, a lot of times we have to put our own wishes and desires and, whatever we want to do at this time, we have to put that aside for a little bit and put our family before our wants and wishes. And, that's what being selfless is all about. It's like how Joseph treated his family, his brothers, when, after they had sold him into slavery and he was in Egypt and he worked his way up. And then when they came to him, he said, don't be afraid. I'll take care of you. Even though you treated me like a dog, I will take care of you. He put his own emotions aside and knew that his family needed help, and he was selfless toward them.
Yeah.
And that's another good example of being selfless.
Selfless attitude. She does. She strikes me as someone who is selfless. We might not be out there gathering raw materials and grinding up our own wheat. Some of you might be. That's great. um, but we are still to serve as keepers at home or working at home, is what the ESV says. So, what are some ways that we should mimic the worthy woman, or what have you seen in other women that they've accomplished with their families when it comes to this kind of work?
Just the example that we can set as mothers, one for our children to be selfless in the same way, but also we've talked about wanting the best for our sons as they grow up and looking for a woman. And if we have set that example in the home of this is how the wife and the mother should behave, that is the type person that our sons will think, well, this is who I want because this is how the home is supposed to function. They will see the way it functions smoothly when the wife is this selfless person and respects and is submission to her husband. And then our girls, the same way, they'll see that example and they'll want to be that woman as they grow up. And
which also leads to that lifetime of faithfulness.
right,
We look at some of the ways that just the, I guess, supposedly generic ways. We buy the items for the house and keeping it to where we can be hospitable. We'll look more at how she was hospitable in a bit, but there's so many things that she did that we're still doing today. They just look different.
right.
Household duties look different, but keeping a home running smoothly, it always requires effort, and especially when you've got the littles at home. If you're in that season where you feel like you just picked up and you got toys everywhere again, it can feel impossible.
Absolutely. And I think it's great that we're discussing the seasons of this woman because there's so many times in life that I've had to sit back and say, you know what? This is this season.
Mm,
This is how it is this season. And I know that it will change. And once this season is over, I will look back and I will remember all of the fond things and the good things and the bad things I'll kind of slip away.
yeah.
Um, but in certain seasons, it's harder.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do have to have grace on ourselves and we have to realize this is the season I'm in. And yes, it's more difficult when the kids are little and they can't really help that much. Although I will say, my grandson loves to help me do the laundry. And he has since he was old enough to crawl. And so I let him, I'm helping him to learn.
Boy.
He pushes the buttons, we watch, we turn the dial. He knows what needs to be done next. And now he's almost 2. When he first gets to the house, that's the first place he goes, is the laundry. And he wants to
Really
help.
loves that laundry room.
Lola, where's my laundry?
He's gonna open his own laundromat. It's gonna be thank you, Lola.
If they got a wonderful husband, he'll be perfect.
Exactly, exactly. It's like he will already know how to
Yeah.
do these things. So,
Oh, I love that. Well, and we remember that, you've had a good attitude in front of him doing that work. He likes it because you have delight and you're willing to do it and you're doing it with him. And so that's special. And we remember that that spills over onto our children. Our good, bad attitudes spill over onto them and we'll see it back.
absolutely.
Our good attitudes will come back to us as well and to other people. They'll see it. But children observe those attitudes toward work, and they so often they are going to mirror those,
Mhm.
and it's like contagious. And that complaining attitude can be passed down, but a grateful heart that can be instilled in them also.
Mhm.
It really can.
When we were getting ready to embark on a big life change, um, a very, very dear sister in Christ gave me the best piece of advice that I've ever, and I continue to remember it to this day. And she sat me down and she said, no matter how difficult things get over the next few years, you remember that those babies
Mm,
and your home are your first priority. Don't let the demands of where you're going and what you're doing weigh you down. You remember that those babies, they come first.
yeah.
And yeah, that has made such an impact on me. And it was so important for her to tell me that, because she was a grandmother and by that point. So she had already raised her babies. She had seen her grandbabies raised. It was wisdom being passed down to me where I would probably question, am I doing enough? I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, you know, and I needed to step back and say, "Okay, this is my season and this is what I am doing and what I'm able to do."
Uh-huh. Yeah, I love it when the older women will all those women that had such a part in bringing up my children, not because they were raising them for me, but because they were mentoring and helping me, and just like she did for you. And the example that she set. I love that. We need so much more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we see her attitude, her planning, her strength, her economic wisdom. She had it all. Verse 15 highlights the Proverbs 31 woman, her ability to plan her day. She values her time. She rises while it is night, and she giveth meat to her household and a portion to her mate. Now that might look like for us getting up early, or it might look like having to stay up really late to get all the work done. I mean, sometimes you gotta work into the early morning to get some of those tasks done, and other times you've got to get up before everybody else just to accomplish a few things. If we look at verse 17, she girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. This is her willingness to work. And we need to be willing workers, whatever that looks like for us. And then verse 16 illustrates her economic strength. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She was a businesswoman, quite industrious. So she considered that field and she expands their property and she's doing good things for her husband and family again because this isn't just for her. Who all does that benefit? Mm, Everybody.
Everybody.
Their children's inheritance as well. So she's helping them. So financial trust is crucial in marriage. Have you heard that mismanagement is one of the leading causes of divorce?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. One of the spouses could not manage the money. Verse 18 confirms her financial wisdom and confidence. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle doesn't go out by night. Whatever she does it well.
And she has that healthy self-esteem that she will acknowledge the fact that I did that right. I did, and as women, so many times we are so hesitant to say, I did a good job with that. But that she shows that positive self-esteem.
We're more prone to beat ourselves up or overthink everything. Like from,
Absolutely.
well, did I say that right in that conversation or did I offend her?
Question yourself.
Yes, questioning ourselves about everything.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what we said probably wasn't that important in that conversation. That person's never going to think about it again.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, not overthinking in areas where we don't need to and making sure that we're putting our best foot forward and being confident in the good things that we can do.
Yeah.
I think how often do we hold ourselves back from continuing to do good things because of a lack of confidence?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So she had gain in that area as well. Now we look at verses 19 through 22, and this looks more like the middle aged woman's, her benevolence, the way that this comes out, because you're able to be a little bit more benevolent when you're in your middle aged years than your younger years, where you're just hoping that you don't have to eat ramen noodles and macaroni and cheese again. So, with experience and financial gain, she's able to give generously to the poor. She who does she give to in verse 20, Nancy?
The poor and the needy.
The poor and the needy. She's able to keep her eye open for those people who need something.
She recognizes the need in others. She doesn't wait for somebody to come to her and say, I need help with this. She sees it when they need help and she instigates the help, reaching out her
Yeah.
hand.
She just invites them to come and get
Right.
help.
Right.
It's not like but nobody in the congregation has to call her and beg her to make a loaf of bread for somebody.
Right. Yeah.
She just does
Yeah.
it. Like, here, let me help you. Um, Her work allows her to have extra to share. She doesn't just work to hoard it up. She expands benevolence beyond material giving. She offers her time and presence. In verse 20, she stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She initiates. She prepares not only for others, but also for her family's future. And so she knows that by her good works that their needs are going to be met and they're not going to be having such a struggle as they might have. So this is when we get to verse 23, this is where we're at the center of that Hebrew chiasm that we keep mentioning her. I do anyway. The Hebrew chiasm, and this is what it all centers around. Verse 23, Tammy, would you read that?
Mhm. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land.
Right. He's able to sit among the elders of the land. Why is that?
Because he has a good reputation and he can hold his head up because he knows that his wife has not been out being frivolous or doing things that ruin his reputation.
Right. Right. Because you know, what's your response to a man that can't rule his own house well, including his wife? Is he a respectable man?
Mhm. Well, have you ever gone home from an event or something and you've looked at your husband and said, this guy is such a great man. I don't understand why he doesn't rein in his wife.
Mhm.
And not in the sense of he is in control of her, but at the same time, he needs to be the head of the home.
Right.
And, you know, our actions as women, we can really make a difference in how our husbands are perceived.
Right.
If they're going to be a good leader, or not. Well, I don't know about him leading because he doesn't seem to be able to, lead his own family.
Mhm.
His wife is over here gossiping and she's over here, meddling in people's business that she shouldn't be doing.
Mhm.
We have a big responsibility as well as a opportunity to build his reputation.
Right. Yeah. A good woman can make or break her man, right?
Yes.
Well, we've looked at the younger woman and the middle-aged woman, and then we come to verses 24 through 25 after looking, of course, at her husband and the authority that he has. The gates were a place of authority, so that's where those leaders would sit. He was able to be a leader because of her. Um, when we look at verses 24 and 25, and she is she's in those older years, and while her skills and her industry, they continue, they just look a little bit differently,
Mhm.
right? They changed. And then we've got not only the older years, but then the elderly years in verses 26 through 29. And in verse 26, you know what she's still doing? She had that delightful attitude when working willingly with her hands. And here she is. She's still kind and she's teaching with wisdom and kindness, passing on what she has learned. She's that mentor and she is teaching others how to be kind and gracious also. This is the legacy of what an excellent wife looks like. She really, truly surpasses even the best of women. And the final summary of her life comes in verses 30 and 31. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands and let her own works praise her in the gate. She deserves praise. This is something to consider. Just being that woman that's worthy of being praised by your husband and by your children. She receives the fruits of her labors. Her husband's respected in the gates. The book of Proverbs begins and ends with the fear of the Lord, and she fears the Lord and she lives accordingly, which gives her that life of faithfulness. And her life is just what shows us her excellence. What thoughts do you all have on that?
Well, it's that life of faithfulness that she lives that shows in her life. It's the example she sets for her family. It sets her attitude toward what she does
Mm.
for her family. It's striving for that life of faithfulness that keeps her going in the right direction in all those ways. And we care.
Whether we're young women just starting out or we're middle aged, we're in the thick of things, we're older women who are closing out our lives. We're all in different seasons, but we all have the same calling, and that is to live with faith, with purpose, and with excellence, like the Proverbs 31 woman. Um, but we have to remember that God's not asking us to do it all at once. This is about a walk that's faithful to Him throughout our lives. Our work, it has eternal value. And we have to remember that every day.
Yeah, and our lack of work has eternal consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we hope that the next time that you get to study the Proverbs 31 woman, that it won't be a, "Oh, not again. I can't measure up," mentality that goes through your head, and that you'll think, "Oh, I can't wait to study her and see how I can be like her through the different seasons of my life." Nancy and Tammy, I thank you and getting to watch you glow through the seasons of your lives. I've seen just a few pieces here and there, and it's been inspiring. And we got to remember that this Proverbs 31 woman, she's not meant to exhaust us. She just is supposed to motivate us. And so let's be motivated by her. Until next time, and thank you for watching.